Hello, so I think a few people kept saying to me, could I do a stream on body armor? Now, this stream isn't to be totally dedicated to body armor. It's going to be one of those ones where people can talk out whatever, really. But I'll start off by wearing this heavy body armor, and then what I'm going to do in a bit is just take this off and put the ECBA on, because it's a much more comfortable body armor to sit in. But, all right, Mike. So, yeah, I thought I'd start off with a Polish one on, but it's not that practical, really, is it? Because it's so bloody bulky. I'll give you a spin. You know, you've got the steel plate in the front, steel plate in the back, and the massive Kevlar sort of bit that wraps all around you, including the collar. So, you know, it's quite hard to put on yourself and tighten up properly, because obviously it's Velcro at the bottom, and then, yeah, good luck sort of pulling that around symmetrically, you know. It's probably my size, roughly, in terms of where the bits match up. The issue is you're meant to be wearing military clothes underneath it, and then these go right on the top. And also, you know, you're meant to tighten all the bits once you've got it on. But, yeah, and you have to take it off. It wouldn't be AR 500 steel. Hang on. Where's the main zip? Well, Velcro thing. It's a... It's big steel plates, but they're, like, not AR 500 rated. They're just the big ones, you know, that were meant to be good about 7.62 by 39 and stuff like that. So let me get that back in, if I can. This one was sent to me by B Store. I think he might have some for sale, but I didn't pay for this one. It's good, but it's bulky. Like I said, I definitely prefer the ECBA to this thing. Let me get it open. If I can, because like I said, this is quite difficult to actually use on yourself, in a sense. Yeah, good luck putting your plate back in it properly if you've taken your plate out while steel plate, as I said. But anyway, let's pop this one off, and then what I'll do is I'll get the comfortable vest to put on for this stream. This one's much better, the ECBA, for me at least. Yeah, ECBAs are like the best I really like, because they're mostly just soft armour with a couple of small hard plates in them. So if I can get that collar done back up, there we go. ECBAs are much better. But basically, yeah, the thing is, ECBA is mostly soft body armour with small plates. So that thing's obviously a much more sophisticated bit of body armour, but it's a lot heavier and clunky. So, anyway, the stream isn't necessarily talking about body armor. It's just a few people asked me, could I do a stream including body armor? So I thought I'd put it on for the start of this one. But yeah, like I said before, the British vests, like this one, this is the one that they kept in service for absolutely yonks, because they couldn't find anything better for it than its roll. So you've got your 7.62 by 51mm rated hard plates that go in the front and back, like ceramic plates. And then the rest of it is just Kevlar filler that's, you know, probably like level 2 or level 3A sort of filler. The idea is most of it protects you from shrapnel. That stops rifle rounds hitting your heart. But yeah, so, and then you just use Velcro to tighten it up a little bit once you've got it on. But overall, I definitely prefer ECBA style vests, just because you could wear it for a long time and it wouldn't bother you. Other than a couple of helmets, Gazer, no. Ah, cool, slim tie. You mean like one of these? That's cool. So, hello to everybody joining. As I said, this stream doesn't have to be about body armor, but as a few people asked for it, I thought I'd put it on to begin with anyway. What was in chainmail, Peach? But yeah, hello to everybody anyway. As I said, there's no real theme for this stream. People can talk about body armor, obviously, if they want to, but if they want to talk about films or gas masks or whatever. I watched a film today that was very good. Well, I watched two films today. One was called Brother, that Tavara Shartiom recommended to me, and that was very good. That was like a Russian mob film, you know, with subtitles. But what I also watched that was quite good, one of the few good sort of horror remakes, the House on Haunted Hill remake. But the reason that's good is it's not really like the original at all. You know, the original's like a very sort of PG sort of horror film, you know, and then the remake's a very gory one full of swearing and stuff like that. Yeah, Henry, I saw the pictures, look good. Only thing I can think of, Mike, for Riveted Chainmail is maybe from Celtic Web Merchant. This would be the one I would use, Kyle, ideally, just because you can keep it on for a long time and it wouldn't bother you. It depends what situation it is, though, because obviously if you knew in advance what you would need the armor for, you'd then choose it based on that, wouldn't you? So ECBA is very good if you want something to wear, you know, constantly that's lightweight enough and wouldn't do your back in or whatever. For regular use to wear under clothing, I'd say like the police style covert body armor, because it's stab resistant and, you know, pistol resistant. But you're not going to get rifle resistant vests that aren't really heavy and bulky like that Polish one. Yeah, I think the reason I liked it, Mike, because it wasn't trying to just do the exact same thing as the original. It was designed to be like a lot more gory and sort of offensive. I really like the original film. I probably prefer the original film, but you know, what I was saying, it's one of those good remakes because they've not tried to just directly copy the remake original. And the thing I also liked about the remake was it was Geoffrey Rush playing Vincent Price, wasn't it? Although his character's name was actually Price in the film, which I thought was quite good, rather than it being, you know, his original name or whatever. I've got all three of the covers for this Jack, but I've put it in this one because it's actually the most modern and best cover. The problem with the Woodland one is it's quite antiquated for like how all the bits zip up. There's probably a lot of Russian gas masks I don't have, especially if you include modern Russian ones, pre-Soviet Russian ones, and Soviet prototype masks. I don't know if Kakano's Riley or it would be on the UK list of antique guns, but I mean, now I've got that Swiss Schmidt, here we go, it's a tongue twister, the Swiss Schmidt Rubin rifle. You know, that's good enough for me for a bolt action. It depends, Jack. Apparently they did a later version of the Woodland one that was set up like this. But yeah, the version of the Woodland I've got, I'd have to literally cut it and put custom Velcro on it if I want to try and get the liner in, because it just got too frustrating. Yeah, Riley, the weird thing is the British gun laws are very weird regarding that. There's stuff you'd think you wouldn't be allowed and you are, and there's stuff you think you should be allowed and you aren't. As I've said before, when people say, would you buy this mask, would you buy that mask, only if I saw them in reasonable prices, you know, because I've got too much stuff as it is, really. And, you know, a lot of the time it comes down to, is it for a reasonable price? In the UK, we don't need licenses for absolutely everything. I know you might not think that living in other countries, but we're not actually as bad as a lot of other people think. The CT12 is my favourite mask, but I'm not going to get it out because it's in its bag behind me. I'm trying to think actually at the moment, is there any kind of armour I'd like to get that I don't have at the moment? There probably is, like there's probably some really good modern ones. Just going to warn the people now, I think the mods might start handing out permanent bans to people saying, you got a license for this, you got a license for that. I've got a Virtuous Helmet behind me. Getting Virtuous body armor is very hard at the moment unless you want to pay shitloads of money. And Virtuous armor isn't even as good as some of the armor some nations use, so I don't really see the point in getting it. The best looking armor I've currently seen is that modern American stuff they're prototyping that uses the thermoplastic plates rather than the ceramic plates. You know, so it's like the same material that helmet's made out of, but just in an armored vest. Yeah, I'm aware of some of the Russian stuff. It is cool looking, but yeah, again, it's a lot to import, isn't it? Well, the plates in this one are ceramic ones that can stop up to 7.62 by 51mm. You know, so it would stop most handgun rounds. But the all right, okay, that person's a racist cunt. Why don't you just fuck off? Because we don't want you here. But there we go, I've said it. And I've blocked them. If you want to come on here and insult people just because they come from a different race or country, or they're like gay and you're straight, you can fuck right off, because I don't want you on here. But you know, I'm just sorry, I'm just going to say that because you people really do start to piss me off now. But anyway, sorry, I've got a bit distracted then just by somebody being a cunt. So why don't we you know, why don't we get it back on you know, topic? But in terms of handgun rounds, most Kevlar 3A is good enough, except for some Magnum rounds. In terms of when it comes to like plate carriers, again, that's like a whole other kettle of fish, isn't it? This type of stuff, if you're lucky, you can get cheap. If you look sometimes on bibs, they're like £50 with all the plates and stuff in them. Sometimes though, they're like hundreds of pounds. It took me quite a long time to get a one of these, because what I ended up having to do was bid on one with a sort of torn up carrier. Then what I was able to do is just replace the carrier for it. There's quite a few places to Shadow. Celtic Web Merchant's quite a good one when it comes to lots of medieval stuff like spears, weapons, and all stuff like that. Yeah, I've got Riot Shields. I've got a big one there, and I've got a little one here. You probably can't see them very well on there, but obviously because they're out of frame. But there's a big Riot Shield there with a load of decimeter pens on it, and there's a smaller round Riot Shield behind it, but you're not really going to be able to see that on camera. And I don't want to get it all out again to you know, put it back away. But yeah, I've done videos on the Riot Shields. For practicality reasons, round Riot Shields that you hold on one arm quite lightly are much better. That's all right, Windows. I'm sure there's a lot of channels much better than me for looking at body armor. I've only got a few sets, but the thing I would say with body armor is you need to be very careful about what sort of weight you want to be dragging around with you, because you'll see a lot of people say just buy the most expensive, bulky, heavy thing, but then you're never going to wear it. So I don't think most people would want to go around wearing, you know, a vest like that Polish one. So the reason I like the ECBAs is it's just a Kevlar vest, a bit like the police vests, and you probably could put the police sort of stab-proof vest type panels in them if you wanted to. But then they've got, you know, like the pockets for the ceramic plates on the front and the back. And if you didn't want the like plate in the back, you could just take it out and reduce the weight of the vest. But body armor like this, as said, could be hundreds. You could be as lucky as to get it to like £50, whatever. Yeah, that's the thing I've mentioned before as well, is that the smaller the body armor is, the more maneuverable you'll be. It will catch on less stuff and you'll be less of a silhouette, won't you? Yeah, you certainly could do, Caleb. I mean, sheets of metal would certainly stop knives and some pistol rounds. But anyway, let me have a look just for people who are on about this sort of stuff, just to see if I can get you a rough idea of how much ECBA vests are at the moment, if I can find one with all the bits included. The liners are like 10 quid if you just wanted to buy the liner, but obviously that doesn't include in the armor. You'd have to sort it all yourself. Most of these coming up don't include any of the kit with them, though. I know at the moment, though, lots of stuff due to all the rioting and corona is sold out. Yeah, if I sort by the highest price, none of them even have the plates included at the moment. So you can literally only get the covers, it seems, on eBay at the moment. I mean, if you look up ex-police vests, you can get a lot there vests. But yeah, in terms of ECBA, it seems to be all sold out at the moment. Well, bomb suits exist, but I don't think there's any suits that could literally stop everything. Yeah, what Windows Potato Defender said is a very good point. It really depends what you're using it for, doesn't it? There isn't really a best armor. It's what is the purpose of what you are using it for? What is your budget? A tinfoil hat adaptive plexus will probably protect you from that. I mean, lead sheeting kind of can protect you from radiation, but it's not guaranteed. No, the reason is, Ethan, the reason is they're sold out is because people recently were buying all of them up. They used ECBAs for fucking ages. That's why they made MTP carriers for them, because Britain basically couldn't get rid of the ECBA. The other interesting thing of the ECBA is, officially, they weren't meant to be selling the ceramic plates in these, because they still use these ceramic plates in a few of the modern army things. They kind of recycled them into them. So officially, I think when ECBAs are sold or surplus, they're not meant to have the ceramic plates with them. They're meant to, you know, supply the vest with maybe the Kevlar filler in it, but not the actual plates. Yeah, no, you're kind of right, Ethan, but the point I was making, sorry, is just that, you know, I think a lot of the reason stuff like this has sold out recently is people have security concerns, you know. Yeah, that's a very good point, Jeremy. The thing is, police vests are much better for most people just because it's against the stuff they're more likely to face. The thing is, I think if the tungsten was thick enough, straight 6 diesel, yes, but the problem is with radiation, it depends on the intensity of it. The more intense it is, the more penetrating it is. So that's the issue, you know. The issue is, Christopher, polycarbonate stuff isn't bulletproof unless it's thick enough. So you'd have to make it really thick to be bulletproof. That's why they're looking into thermoplastics at the moment. My favourite AK variant is a 74, but bear in mind I've not shot AKs because I'm in the UK. I've still had stuff delayed from Russia from like months ago. I think at the moment, anybody's guess would be when something will come. I don't know why I would know. I've had stuff delayed for months and some stuff that comes quickly, you know. Yeah, we'll try and keep this more on topic of regular stuff we talk about on these streams rather than favourite explosive weapon, Aldi, the Davy Crockett rocket launcher. Have you ever looked that up? Not that you'd want to be the person shooting one of those. Right, a Röntgen is a measurement, Alf. Röntgen is the name of Wilhelm Conrad Röntgen, who was a German physicist who discovered X-rays, and the Röntgen is a measurement named after him. Röntgen's a pretty old measurement. 1 Röntgen equals 1 centimetre of air that has been ionized. I think probably 0 degrees, or maybe it's room temperature, I don't know. Röntgens are pretty old measurements. Right, in terms of the difference between a decimeter, what did you say, and a Geiger counter. Geiger counters work by counting decays per minute or decays per second in the form of counts. Decimeter essentially just means something that measures your dose. The problem is there's not necessarily a uniform agreement between countries. So, again, some nations will call Geiger counters decimeters, others won't. But in the modern application, a decimeter is something that both records your, you know, kind of exposed dose to radiation and your current dose. But yeah, the Röntgen, I like the Röntgen measurement because while it's quite outdated, Röntgens are very metric. Röntgens were phased out because they don't directly equate to harm to humans. So for radiation exposure to humans, Kyle, greys, because greys are basically about 1.14 Röntgen. And the idea is it's like 1.14 Röntgen in the air is about 1 unit of exposure to a person, because 1 grey is the same as 1 rad, 1 Röntgen absorbed dose. But this is where it gets complicated, because now the grey's kind of been phased out for the sievert. And 1 grey and 1 sievert are the same thing. But the thing is, the difference between the grey and the sievert is the sievert takes into account the damage that might be done if you ingested something, or if like the radiation was exposed to your brain, not exposed to your foot. So yeah, that's probably made it really complicated. But the reason the Röntgens were replaced with greys in a lot of nations were because greys were more of a direct measurement like rads that told you how much exposure you'd had, you know, as a person. Rather than in the air itself, although it's not very hard. You know, the higher the Röntgens are, the more dangerous it is to you for obvious reasons. And then sieverts were brought in because it was more of like a harm factor thing. You know, it was more like a hit point thing. If it hits you in the head, it does more damage than if it hits you in the foot. Because, you know, if you'd been exposed to radiation in your hand, you might get a necrotic finger, or you might need a finger amputated or something, but otherwise you'd be all right. if that radiation exposure was to your chest or your brain, you're probably going to get a fatal cancer. That's the difference between lots of, the exposures. But I like Rontgens just because they're a very metric measurement. And it doesn't, other metrics are pretty human-centric because they're bearing what our exposure kind of things are in mind, not other animals, not the environment. If you're using Chrome, you're going to be getting a lot of lag with YouTube at the moment. I'm having to stream via Opera now, not Chrome. Adaptive Plexus is asking stupid fucking questions. Oh, goodbye. I've not played Metro Exodus. I've played Last Light and 2033. The Osprey, right? It's complicated even because as far as I'm aware, these sort of plates were used in some of like the extra armor bits that went on the front, but in terms of the actual plates, they are custom plates, I think. I think most countries are probably going to get a second wave, sadly. Your goat threaded hose. You attach that to goats. I assume you mean Ghost, but yeah. Yeah, what browsers are there? Opera, Firefox, Chrome, Safari, Netscape. Netscape was a really good old browser. Does everybody remember Netscape? If you're as old as me. Internet Explorer, which is now called something else, isn't it? Internet Explorer is always shit. All right, Daniel. I've not heard of this, Nick. I'd not like to get into too much of politics, but it does sound like a shitty situation for everybody involved. Yeah, Edge, that's it. Because it comes on Windows and I never use it. But for people saying, was I interested in old armors? I would be, but again, it's how much space do they take up, how much do they cost compared to how practical they are. Because, as much as like medieval battle armor is cool, it's fucking expensive and it's pretty impractical compared to like modern armor. I don't know what type of filters the Condor masks take, I'm afraid. I've not heard of them before. I've got the old British equivalent of that flak jacket that's right at the back there under the shelf. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, that's an old ballistic nylon jacket. So again, it's completely outdated, but pretty cool. This one, yes, because this particular one, as long as there's something hits you there is filler. Not all body armor does. Some, they have like bits that stop about there and stop about there. So, somebody could still stab or shoot you there, or shrapnel could still get in there. On these, there is still the stuff in there, because this armor actually goes through the shoulder bit. You can't post links on here unless you're a mod. And that's not me saying that, that's just YouTube rules. But yeah, like I said, this stream doesn't have to be about body armor. A cool Geiger counter. US CDV 700, Soviet DP5 series, Polish DP66s or DP75s. For cheap. You see, that's the problem. You're asking for an expensive piece of military equipment cheap. If you want a cheap Geiger that's all right, GMC 300s or GMC 500s are all right, but they're not really all that amazing. If they were legit cheap enough, Nick, and they actually worked well enough, yes. But I know there's a lot of stuff like sold by Chinese sellers that are just like junk, that are like little aluminium plates in it, even though they're advertised as bulletproof or stab proof. Oh, cool. You got a GP5 and you actually like it. That's good. Ballistic knives, I'm pretty sure, are legal in the UK. FX, and no, I don't have one. They're the ones that like shoot a knife. I'm pretty sure they are illegal here. No idea, I'm afraid, Boldingtowski. The problem is at the moment, lots of PPE from Russia is export banned because they want it for themselves because of Corona. And sometimes you can't find stuff for direct sale on eBay. You need to basically know somebody who can get it for you. No, it says 0821. The numbers every now scroll to stop them burning in. But it's not been saying silly numbers. I think it's because you're looking at it at like a low resolution image in the background. Yeah, it's off the coast of Japan somewhere, isn't it? Or Russia, that island. Yeah, I can never understand Beagle, restrictions on body armor, because it doesn't hurt anybody, does it? The idea of body armor is it protects the person wearing it. Oh, if you're actually missing the bits, Mackenzie, I think the mask's probably fucked, I'm afraid. Because, yeah, if somebody's literally ripped bits of the plastic out, it's a useless mask. One of them's kept on 24/7. That one, although the batteries in it have fucked up again. That's normally run off a USB cable, but the thing is, most of the time you're never going to see anything like. Now and again you'll see something irregular on the Geiger counter, but most of the time, you won't. The thing is, Daniel, if you're a criminal, you're not going to give a shit, are you, if body armor's illegal? I've never heard of the US Interceptor, and somebody else said it's very rare, so the answer is I'm not going to be able to get one here, I think is the answer to that. Get the fuck out of Dodge, FX would be the answer to that. If there was a Chernobyl-like situation in your area, you're absolutely fucked unless you get out of there as soon as possible. And you'd be absolutely fucked if you didn't have a way of measuring radiation, because otherwise you wouldn't know it's there until you've already got a fatal dose. All right, but that's still more than I'd want to pay unless it's really, really good stuff, Jeremy. Yeah, if people want to talk about radiation again, they can do. I have no idea, Nick, because I've never tried to buy them, but if you're asking, does crime in the UK happen with illegal firearms, the answer is yes. Simply banning something doesn't stop it existing. Right, what iodine tablets do, Alf, is you have a thing called the thyroid gland. I think it's in the neck, isn't it, the thyroid glands? And there's a type of radioactive iodine called iodine 131. If you inhale or ingest that, it goes to your thyroids and gives you thyroid cancer. What stable iodine tablets do is they saturate your thyroid with iodine so it can't absorb any more for a limited period. So that kind of radiation isn't absorbed into the body. You need to take the tablets before you're exposed to the radiation or it doesn't do any good. And it only protects you against iodine 131. It doesn't protect you against ingesting or inhaling strontium-90, radium, cesium-137. This one, Guardian TV, it'd probably be level 2 or 3A for the filler. The plates are at least level 3 because they're designed to stop 7.62 by 51mm. Cheers, Marcus. Hype sent it me as a gift. It's really nice. But the problem is where it's in the background there. I don't think in the webcam the actual numbers can be made out very well. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that, Patty Beast. I've seen places selling it, claiming that, but if you think how old the GP5 is now, I don't think there's any guarantee of that. Sadly, in real life, Nick, you just fall apart and die horribly. I don't think you become glowing ghouls in real life. To be honest, Mike, I'll just block him because he's been spamming the chat with weird shit recently, so it's either a little kid or a troll. Well, all of them are used, Beagle, because they're old military surplus. One of them's from 2009, and the one I'll probably end up selling to somebody at some point from the 80s. But yeah, they're basically all old stock. I mean, unless you somehow manage to get one from Avon or one that had been in storage and never issued, you're not really going to get an S10 that was never issued because they were like standard infantry masks. No, I am not an engineer, FX. I find engineer stuff interesting, but I'm not an engineer. But, you know, there's nothing stopping you reading books and watching, like, informative videos on stuff, is there? I have no idea if it contains chromium or not, Arctic Sniper, but most filters up until, like, 2000, 2010 contained chromium, because it was a pretty effective filter element. Because they're not mainstream things, Dean. Is that the Mark II Northern Ireland vest, or is it something else? The Mark II Northern Ireland vest looks really cool, but I've not got one myself. But it's similar design to this, isn't it? The idea is it's soft filler where you can put plates in it. Only, I think, if you're a military supplier, Beagle, or a big company. Regular people know, because they wouldn't sell you one or two masks. Fred's is much better than The Day After. Day After's still alright, but Fred's is a much better and more bleak movie. The Day After's kind of too optimistic about what would happen with a nuclear exchange, you know. I could at some point someone, but at the moment we're not meant to be just going out and wandering around for random reasons, you know, because of lockdown stuff. If it's a 40mm filter, Mackenzie, it should work fine on your S10. It would completely depend, FX, where you were based on where the thing happened and how big the scale of it was. That's pretty bloody cool that you got one of those for free. Alright, you're not going to be on Twitch tonight. So you're doing flooring tomorrow and you won't be on Twitch tonight. Right, I'll watch your film then later on then, Mike. In theory, the ones that are 40mm GOST filters, yes. So if you get one that's a P5 that's made as 40mm GOST, or the FP5s that are GOST, not the FP5s that are NATO, then yes. But if you watched my video on it recently, you'd have seen it's a bit of a shit show if you're trying to buy a mask pole filter to reliably fit a GOST mask, because they just put random labels on it. Unless you contact a manufacturer, Dean, probably not. I wouldn't trust a Tyvek suit against nerve gas, no, because a Tyvek suit is designed for like light industrial use, not military use. I have no idea, Jeremy. They probably want to see what company you were from. The thing is, lots of companies like that just don't supply regular people. That's the thing. No, because it displays it fine if you're watching on YouTube. And I wouldn't want it on the side, because when people post racist shit and need to be blocked, it would show up on the side, wouldn't it? So, no. It's fine as it is. Hello, Rajiv. How are you? Most of those countries, I think, have Soviet surplus, as far as I'm aware. Soviet or NATO surplus stuff. Yeah, I did Swaggerino. I mean, this isn't really a politics stream, but I think vandalizing statues is fucking stupid in all honesty. I'm pretty sure there's a bit in 1984, isn't there, about destroying and rewriting history? I'm just saying. No, I've talked about them before, though, Pliable Mammal, because if you don't know, it's the one that didn't meet a lot of the claims they were meant to make. You can get ABEC in free, Christopher. They're just much, much bigger. They have to be like coffee can style size to be like A free or whatever. If you wanted an ABEC free filter, it'd probably be like a giant coffee can. I think my Polish FP205 filter might be ABEC free, P free. But bear in mind that filter's like that big. It's the size of one of those EO14s. It's just red. It's a different type of 40mm Fred patty. Yeah, it's not. I assume, yeah, you're not shocked, but you're disappointed, aren't you, Rajiv? That's the way I feel about a lot of the stuff going on at the moment. Sorry, what was on at 9 p.m? Have I forgotten that something was on at 9 p.m? Yugo M2 is certainly better than the M1, but apparently it still melts. Thankfully, mine hasn't melted, but you know. Oh, PS5 review. Oh well, I play games on PC. Not anymore really. Most masks are all panoramic now. Old ones though, so you could use optics more easily for the most part, and it was easier to make two strong lenses than one strong panoramic lens. Because if you obviously think about it, two smaller bits of glass or plastic are going to be stronger than having one big bit of plastic. UK is pretty fucked FX as far as it goes. That's the easiest way of saying it. In terms of economic damage done, and although our deaths are going down and everything now, if we have a second wave and they shut stuff down again, you know, we're already probably looking at a depression like a lot of countries are, not just a recession. We're already in a recession due to it, but you know. From what I've heard, Pliable, it's because the SGE was advertised as being NBC certified and it actually wasn't, because stuff like mustard gas could eat through the rubber they used. You'd have to look into it in more detail, but I know SGE kind of got in trouble because they paid people to advertise the mask rather than it just being, you know, like a legit product people bought and then said, oh, this is a good mask. I'll probably say allegedly here because I don't want to try and, you know, I don't want to get sued because that might not actually be completely true. But from what I understand, it was basically that, you know, people were almost sent free ones to big them up to try and get more sales. I'm not really interested, Pliable Mammal, thank you. But, you know, thank you anyway. But I think most things will get cheaper in the future if they're electronics based. But I'll probably go off in about 5 to 10 minutes. But as I said, I don't really like getting political in these streams because now and again we will have streams where we talk about politics. But the problem is in lots of streams when people bring up politics, it's just to start arguments. Depends on what model and what price, Christopher. If in theory you could buy an industrial mask from a reputable company that's very new for whatever price, compared to an old military surplus mask, I'd say industrial masks are better. If you're on about like direct equivalents, generally military masks are better because they have to be more withstanding to horrible chemicals. But you know, it's one of those sort of things, isn't it, where it's going to really come down to the quality of the individual mask. I mean, they're scrambling for them, FX, but it's not really a funny situation, is it? It's more just, I wish people would actually pay attention when they're told things by scientists. I'm not saying I'm a scientist because I'm fucking not, but you know, when people who are educated about certain matters tell you things, you probably ought to listen to them rather than going, it won't happen. And then, you know, as soon as everything goes wrong, suddenly wanting to listen to them. Yeah, like I said, industrial masks I've kind of liked a lot more recently, just because there's a lot more very new masks getting into the market for not bad prices. Probably 4 or 5. It depends what sort of quality you mean. Right, what have I got? If we'll count the ones that actually have filler and plates in, not just, not just ones that are like liners. Right, that old Northern Ireland vest, that's 1. This one, 2. The Polish vest, 3. The British police vest, that's 4. And, I've got the Pasket as well. I always forget about the Pasket. So that's 5. And I've also got the Osprey vest, but that's not got all the parts for it. So that's like 6. So yeah, I'd say about 6 vests. But Spaziani is one of my favourite industrial masks. Now, that's not a Geiger counter if you're looking at that, but I do actually have a CDV 700, but it's not visible in the background, but I do have a CDV 700. Oh, Rajiv, are you thinking of this one with the filters? The Chinese MF11D. But this is a very good mask, yeah. It's just a shame that you can't easily get them at the moment. That's a CDV 720. It's an ionization chamber, not a Geiger counter, designed for like really dangerous radiation levels. The CDV 700 is the only Geiger counter in that series because it actually uses a Geiger Muller tube rather than, an ionization chamber to detect Rontgens in the air. The Avon S8 is pretty much impossible to find, so if I ever did get one, I'd review it, but, there's like a couple in museums as far as I'm aware. Well, it depends what sort of situation. If you mean domestically, I'm sure it's more likely that they'd use something that's a chemical weapon, seeing as lots of nations already use tear gas against people, don't they? In terms of in a military like war, probably a nuclear weapon, like small-scale nuclear weapons. Because it's easier to breathe through them, Dean, is the main reason. Which thing you on about that one? That goes up to 500 Rontgen, but the lowest scale on it is 0 to 5 Rontgen. Don't know what I'd do in that FX, in all honesty. No, I prefer gas masks to escape hoods. If you've seen my video on the Avon escape hood, you probably know why. Yeah, that counter, the CDV 715s I've got, and a couple of others go up to 500 Rontgen. That one goes up to 500 Rontgen. Most of the counters I've got max out at like 200, 300 Rontgen, or, like centigrade equivalent. But yeah, the point is if those counters go up to the top, you're dead. In their time, they worked, because obviously if they didn't work back in World War I, lots of soldiers would have died, even more soldiers would have died from chemical weapons exposure. But today, no, they're far too old and antiquated to work. But back in the day, yes, they definitely did work, If you mean like the little programmable little circuit board things, not really. I never got into it, but I wear a half face mask FX, which is like a mix between the two. But if you're on about this pliable mammal, it's not got all the Arduino stuff set up with it. But if you're just on about one of these, then I know what you're on about. You on about one of these? Oh. There you go. It's on the contacts now. But the actual Geiger counter works without Arduino, because all the Geiger counter does is tick and flash a light, and that's what a Geiger counter fundamentally is. Anyway, right, I'm going to finish the stream now. if I do a stream tomorrow, it will just be an unthemed one on anything pretty much. Because this one, although it wasn't completely about body armor, I think that distracted a lot of people where they just wanted to ask body armor questions. Anyway, so thanks everybody. I will be off now. But yeah, see you all. So you're not on Twitch tonight then, Mike, so I'll watch your film, but thanks for letting me know. If you look on eBay at DIY Geiger counter, truth does not exist. You can find a lot on there. Just type in like DIY Geiger on eBay. They should be like 30, 40 pounds. There's a few different types of them. Some where they've got bits assembled and pre-done for you. Others where you have to solder them yourself and everything. But I've already answered you, so don't spam the question. Right, you're not on Twitch. Right, see you all then. Goodbye. Right, and I look forward to seeing your shield then, Peach, as well.